Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning to my lecturer Encik Afian. My name is Dina Farhana binti Amri from class MT2 1PISMP and today I will be presenting my continuous assessment titled Application of Reasoning and Statistics. This presentation highlights how reasoning plays a vital role in understanding and applying statistical concepts, especially in solving real life problems through logical thinking and data representation. We will move on into introduction first. First of all, reasoning builds understanding and enhances problem solving. Next, it also helps us interpret information and make informed decisions. And lastly, it also supports real life applications through logical thinking. For example, when we read data from a graph or calculate an average, we are using reasoning to make sense of the numbers. So, reasoning helps us not just to calculate correctly, but also to understand what those calculations mean in real life, like knowing whether our budget or plan is realistic. Reasoning is important in daily life, especially for budgeting and financial planning and analyzing expenses, savings, and decisions. For instance, if someone receives 500 ringgit every month, reasoning helps them decide how much to spend, save, and manage bills. It is the same skill we use in mathematics, analyzing numbers and making logical choices. Therefore, reasoning connects mathematical knowledge to our daily decision making. The purpose of this presentation is to present a non-routine real-life problem. Next, solve it using a line graph. And third, analyze the reasoning process. And lastly, reflect on my mathematical and communication skills. In simple words, I will explain a real situation that needs reasoning to solve, show the process using a line graph, and reflect on what I learned from it. This task helps me practice logical thinking, data interpretation, and clear presentation skills. Here is the real life's problem situation. Amir set a fitness goal for April. He wanted to walk an average of 5.5 kilometers per day for 16 days, since April has 13 days in total. However, his performance was not consistent, meaning that sometimes he walked more, sometimes he walked less. So our focus is to determine how much Amir must walk daily for the remaining days to reach his target. This is a practical example of how reasoning helps in planning and improvement. For example, if we realize we are behind in our target, it doesn't matter whether it's fitness or saving money, reasoning helps us adjust our plan for the remaining days. So why this is a non-routine problem? This problem is non-routine because it cannot be solved using a direct formula. It requires analyzing data in different time intervals and using multi-step reasoning, such as calculating partial totals, identifying the deficit, and adjusting the remaining working rate. This means Amir's problem needs more than one step. We must think carefully and connect several pieces of information. In real life, many problems are like this. We don't just apply one formula, we analyze and reason step by step. To solve this problem, let's calculate step by step. Amir's planned total distance is 30 days times 5.5 kilometers per day, and we got 165 kilometers. So that is his goal for the whole month. Next, let's calculate what he has already walked. In the first 10 days, which is 10 times 4.2, which we got 42 kilometers, and in the next 8 days, which is 8 times 3.75 kilometers, which we got 30 kilometers. So total distance walked so far, which is we add between 42 and 30, and we get 72 kilometers. And that means after 18 days, Amir has only completed 72 kilometers, which is less than half of his targets. This helps us understand that his progress is slower than expected. Now we find what remains. We calculate the remaining days first, which is 30 minus 18, which we got 12 days. Okay, and next we calculate the remaining distance, which is 165 kilometers minus 72 kilometers is equal to 93 kilometers. And the required average for the last 12 days is 93 divided by 12, which is we got 7.75 kilometers per day. This means that to reach his target, Amir must now walk 7.75 kilometers every single day for the rest of the month. A simple way to understand this is since he walked less earlier of the month, he now needs to walk more later at the end of the month. This shows the importance of monitoring progress, which means that if we fall behind, reasoning helps us find how to recover them. To represent those data, I chose line graph as my form of data representation. The line graph shows Amer's walking performance. As you can see, the line graph on the screen, we can see a downward trend during the first 18 days. And then a sharp increase is needed in the last 12 days. The graph also shows a clear gap between Amer's actual performance and his target of 5.5 kilometers per day. This visual helps us understand the problem even better, which means it is easier to see that Amer must put in extra effort. For example, if this were a student study plan, the line graph would show how much more revision is needed to reach their learning goal. Let's take a look at reasoning analysis. In solving this problem, reasoning is applied in several ways. It uses mathematical concepts such as mean and rate. Second, it helps us to identify the deficit and what needs to improve. And third, it supports better planning and decision making. And lastly, the graph helps us compare and understand the data more clearly. Let's take an example. By reasoning, Amir can see where he went wrong, what his shortfall is, and how to plan his next steps logically. So, this shows how mathematics helps people make better decisions in everyday life. This task also involves higher order thinking skills. It connects data patterns to outcomes, meaning we learn from past performance to predict future actions. The line graph is the best choice because it shows continuous data over time, unlike bar charts that ask for separate categories. It provides a clear picture of Amin's progress and helps him plan even better. For instance, athletes or students often use line graphs to track their improvement and set realistic goals. So, in conclusion, reasoning helps us solve real life problems. Graphs make things easier to understand, and mathematical thinking guides smart decisions. Ame's walking problem shows how reasoning helps us analyze data, plan improvements, and achieve their goals. In short, reasoning is not only a mathematical skill, but is also a skill for life that encourages logical, analytical, and critical thinking. That is all for my presentation on application of reasoning in statistics. So thank you for listening, and I end this with Assalamualaikum and warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.